If you want to wear your headphones and perfecto. Perla headphones. No. Okay. Well, empezamos. So thank you so much for being here with us today. And as I said before, we will take this moment and this space to now go a little bit deeper into what we cover in the case studies that we documented, but the idea today is also to learn about what's happening in the different countries, whether alliances are active and how different members are using the alliances as a vehicle to promote their objectives and to make sure that climate action and climate policy continues to advance. So as I said before, as you can see here, we will have 6 speakers, and I don't want to have them here the whole time, and I would like to give the whole stage to the person that is presenting. So I will call one by one, and we will hear what the presentation that they have prepared for us. So first, I would like to call Ms. Pilar Bueno. She's the Undersecretary for Climate Change and Just Ecological Transition of the city of Rosario in Argentina. Thank you, Pilar, for being with us today.
Gracias. Hi, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to ACA for the invitation, to WWF for having me today. Let me start by saying maybe I don't want to skip the political momentum we are experiencing. We have been talking about political momentum since Paris in the best and positive way. But we also need today to start to talk about political momentum and the political spirit of the momentum in a not so good sense. So I don't want to skip that. I want to go directly to that and to say how we need to work with that together. So we know that we are really trying to see how we can contain. Is that the word? To contain a situation that really give us some anxiety, that make us feel what is going to happen in the international context with a Trump saying, I'm going to leave the Paris Agreement again, with Milei, our president, saying, I want to leave the Paris Agreement. We are not there, and we have a Congress there to take that decision, not him, and that's very important. And that's a lot in terms of institutions, because this conversation, it's also about that. Of course, leadership play a critical role in political momentum. Also, institutions play a critical role in order to keep that political momentum and to maintain climate institutions in the way that we need to have them in this critical moment. So to work in order to contend and to maintain what we agree together, what we keep together, what we achieve together after all these years. So in that sense, subnational actors, and I'm coming from a city in Argentina, probably you know Argentina, it's not only experiencing Milei, we are also, half of our population is under poverty. So there are many issues that we need to solve, but at the same time, climate policies provide hope in many cases when we understand the kind of language when we need to talk with people. There are 3 messages I want to maintain during these conversations with respect to how to work with the political momentum and how we need to build this shield that we need to develop together. So the first of all, of course, we need to be ambitious. How to keep us ambitious, and in all levels, considering that we need to get from this COP in particular an ambitious outcome in terms of the new climate, on the new financial goal. So we need to really have that and a clear message from the new triangle, let's say, from the EU, China, UK, and possibly others to really help us to keep that momentum. So politically, we need to get that and to maintain it together. At the same time, ambitious is to be ambitious also imply that subnational actors really need to maintain the leadership that we have been having so far, because we need to remember that Paris Agreement was possible also because many other stakeholders say we are here, we are ready to commit, we are here because we want to be part of these financial flows of change, we are here because we really are we want to commit on mitigation and both on adaptation and loss and damage. So that's a key issue, to keep ambitious and to keep the narrative focus on that. And moving to the narrative, talking with people. You know, I'm coming from the world of adaptation. So we have said for almost 30 years, 20 from my career, but 30 of adaptation conversations here, that adaptation is the language of people. So we said for all these decades to people, you need to reduce your emissions. We need to continue saying that. But in a country like mine, with half of poverty, we really need to talk to people. In another queue, we need to talk to people in terms of vulnerability, of draw, of livelihoods, of employment, and how just transition need to help them to maintain jobs that we have that are safe. So to keep that narrative safe and improve it in a way that really help us to talk to people in a better way. Adaptation is the clue there, and I want to also state that as a second message from my part and from Rosario perspective, and now I will give you some examples of that regard. My third comment is with respect to working together. So we are here, all of us, because we are already working together. For many, many years, we said that alliances are the key, and that's continue to be truth. But now alliances also have a new role to step in all this political momentum. Alliances really need to help us to maintain what we achieve together in terms of institutions inside, at home. Alliances also can help us to be more ambitious in terms of catalyzing more finance, more capacity building, to understand better our needs, to really make our policies more consistent, and to reach people in the way we need to reach people, as we said before. So alliances has the traditional role, but a new role to play. It's not the same, every year is more. So in these days, in Argentina, in my city, in Rosario, city with some people voting, some negationisms. So, I mean, we need to accept that, embrace that, and help us to change it. Next year we will have elections. So how we can fight to something that get us anxious and fear and what we said at the beginning if we don't embrace it and we really try to change it. So Rosario is a city that forever tried to change things. It's our nature, our identity. We're fighters. And we fight for so many things, even in our country. Our city is a city with a lot of climate leadership. That climate leadership is expressed in the clarity of our concepts and our climate policies. We have a governance, everybody participates there. We have a monitoring system. We are transparent with our actions, with what we do good and what we have to really to change and to do better together. So I am very proud of coming from my city. You can see that. Of course, we need to do things better. Yes, we always need to do. And for that, alliances again, and cooperation, international cooperation. So I see many people here coming from different projects and alliances that we already have. So we really want to help that. I thank the opportunity to address you. I want to maintain that idea that cities can make the change we need. In Argentina, it's even more clear right now that subnational states, cities have the key. We can be the key actors, the ones that really help us to change the game, the game that didn't finish, it just started. So we are there to do that fight that we need. And we are here in COP in order to give that message to everybody that want to hear, along with my other colleagues from Argentina, that we are a lot. So again, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to continue the exchange afterwards on our policies, our main projects, and of course, how we can improve it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pilar. And I don't know if anyone has one question or two questions for Pilar, specific questions for her. We can have 1 minute, 2 minutes for questions. But I think your presentation was very clear and very passionate. And thank you so much. I would like to give now the floor to our next guest, Daniela Casanello, Advisor for Climate and Sustainability of the city and municipality of Vitacura in Chile.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for the invitation. I work for the municipality since 3 years ago with the mayor, Camila Merino. She's working very hard to incorporate nature in the city and also to do Vitacura a city that works with sustainability. So how many of you would like to have nature near your homes? So almost everybody. And when we think about nature, sometimes people think about a national park. But urban nature is something very different. It's nature that is related with people. We need to relate nature with people in a city. And they have to combine or to live together. So it's not very easy to work this mix with people, green infrastructure and gray infrastructure. So Santiago is located in the northeast part of, Vitacura is located in the northeast part of Santiago, and we have one of the main rivers going through that is Mapocho, and also, next to the mountains. Vitacura has also one of the highest square meters per inhabitant. It has 16. So in 2021, we had great issues with drought. So we had 113 millimeters in a year. And the next year, 2022, we had 150. And we had 14 years of drought. So we almost had no water even to drink. So they wanted to cut that summer the water, and we had to do something in the municipality for the green spaces. So we did a huge campaign with the people so that they don't use so much water, but also in our green areas. So we needed to do a real planification to use less water. We also have an issue with the temperature during the summer. It goes very high each year higher. So we had a challenge on how we can drop the temperature from our city. So climate change is affecting us very hard. That's myself taking temperature of different places from our municipality, from our area, to see how is the difference between shade and sun, and to explain that also to our neighbors. So some of the challenges that we started to see was climate change. The city is growing, so each year we have less square meters, green square meters per inhabitant. Oops, sorry. Also, the biodiversity is being less, so we have many other challenges to face. And some of the benefits that has nature in cities is, for example, reducing heat islands effects, floodings, providing habitat for the biodiversity, social integration, and it makes also that a city is more walkable. So we did a whole methodology that don't have time here to explain it, but I have some copies of the Green Infrastructure Plan. But we started with a participatory work where we work with neighbors, with the municipality, so with different actors, even with students, to develop this plan. We work really hard to understand the territory where we were, because making a planification without understanding the territory is impossible. So we study the risk areas, topography, the vegetation that we had, everything. So trees, type of trees. And for example, even when we have 16 square meters per inhabitant, everything that is in red is less than 9. So you cannot say that we have 16 in everywhere. So we identify clearly where are the places where we don't have that, and where we don't have the people with enough green spaces for them. So what we did was work in strategic lines and real actions related to those strategic lines. We started identifying the biggest avenues and streets to create green corridors. And also, 35 projects will be done by 2024. This is one of them, that's a median. This was the first project, and we changed grass for a biodiverse space, and we could lower the amount of water that we use in 60%. Same thing in this plaza, that we also changed the grass, and that's how it looks now. So before we didn't have anybody like going in that place, and now it's really a big change. And the other thing is that we are not using pesticide anymore there, because we have biologic control. So what we are looking is to have the plaza with the green corridor, that's a bike path, a green bike path. Then we have the private garden. We have through a certification that we are working so that the private people also connect with the network that we are doing. And also, for example, those private gardens started already to change their gardens in the same way that we have. And we hope to have green roofs in the future. So the community is also very involved. We have volunteers to maintain those gardens, and also we do community learning walks, so that they know what we are doing, what we are planting, and we have co-creation process in the park and plazas. So what we want to do is have a more sustainable future, and to have a city that is really walkable and where people can live. So I have here a
infraestructura verde es una red verde en una ciudad. Hoy día la diferencia que tiene es que hay una planificación, como te decía, a corto, mediano y largo plazo, que donde se van entrelazando todos los temas verdes unos con otros. Entonces eso incluye los corredores verdes, que es lo primero que nosotros hemos estado planificando, todas las plazas, parques existentes, y ver cómo también las personas que viven en estos espacios se van entrelazando o viviendo estos espacios verdes.
El enfoque del Plan de Infraestructura Verde trabaja a una escala de paisaje, porque en Vitacura tenemos el gran privilegio de tener el río Mapocho como corredor biológico natural en el centro de nuestra comuna. Tenemos el cordón de cerro, en Fondo Carbón, Manquehue y Manquehuito, que son un patrimonio natural que está ahí, muy evidente, y que es el núcleo desde donde nosotros queremos conectar a la parte urbana con la naturaleza existente. Entonces, las áreas verdes se tienen que ver como una red conectada de naturaleza urbana y que las personas la puedan percibir a nivel diario. En la rutina diaria de las personas tiene que haber naturaleza.
A nosotros nos interesa mucho el bienestar de las personas en relación al contacto con la naturaleza. Entonces, en ese sentido, van a ir poder viendo en distintos espacios que hay una variabilidad de especies, que puedan aprender también. La parte educativa también ha sido súper importante en estos espacios, y el poder conectarse más con la naturaleza a través de poder relacionarse con la planta en forma mucho más cercana. Y la idea a nivel de ciudad es que podamos el día de mañana conectarnos también con las otras comunas, que las otras comunas también puedan trabajar, ya que las aves, por ejemplo, y los insectos no conocen fronteras.
Por eso, estos planes se llaman infraestructura verde, porque vienen a competir en el mismo nivel con la infraestructura gris.
So for us, for example, education is one of the main things. So we just put signs in the plazas that you see there, and these signs are very special. We are using recycled material to do a circular economy, using what our neighbors recycle. We put it in those signs. For the education, as you saw, we have put the names of the trees and the plants so that people start knowing what we're doing. Some of the topics that we put there is, for example, what is urban nature, what is biodiversity, what kind of birds you can see there, what kind of plants you see there. So we have been really working on how we transmit this to our community. So here you can see some of the plazas that we have, and the connection with the river. Before, that connection was closed. Nobody wanted to be next to the river. Now is one of the main keys. And very short, this is another program that we have, organic waste program. We started 2 years ago as a pilot program, and now it has increased. People are every day more convinced that this is the way. We compost that waste and put it back in our green areas. And since we have so much now, we also are doing, we want to share now with our other municipalities. So thank you very much. Here you can find the Green Infrastructure Plan. It is only in Spanish, but if you have any questions, you can contact me. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you so much. Is there any question for Daniela that you want to ask at this point? Yes, Perla. A mic is coming your way.
Hello, Daniela. Congratulations for your work. Vitacura looks really beautiful. I was wondering, you said that you worked in engaging the neighbors, like in adopting, I think, the sort of trees and the plants that are native and that are part of your green infrastructure plan. But I was wondering, how was that approach? Was it difficult? Was it super easy? Because I think that this must be common, but for instance, in my city, a lot of the gardening or private gardens use invasive or exotic species, so that has caused a lot of problem in the mountains and the native ecosystem. So yeah, I was wondering how that worked. Was it super easy or was it a lot of work?
Do you mean with the other cities?
No, I mean with the neighbors of Vitacura, with the population.
No,
of
that
Vitacura.
was horrible, very hard.
I thought you were
It
going
took
to
us
say that.
we started with a ¿cómo se dice? Concurso, a contest that the name was Take Out Your Grass. So that was, I cannot tell you, but people understood because we were in this situation with no water. So when we were telling you take out your grass, was please take care of the water. So that's how we started. Was not easy, but we started with this manual where you could take you can take out the grass, but it explains in like step by step how you can change that place. And we have exam models of what plants, for example, you should put there. So it was step by step, but it was not easy. With the gardens, people could understand, but when we start doing it in the park or plaza, that was an issue. But after 3 years, I think we really changed the mind of many people. So we start showing the process. So how can it look, how it looks. The first time they were like very afraid, but now I have neighbors that they say, I want the same thing that how the other plaza looks, I want mine too. So I think showing things, and you have to do it. So other way, you won't do anything. So we are starting to pilot also many different things, materials and plants and everything. So if we don't start doing that, we will stay always with the same things. So, but it's not an easy way. So you have to be brave.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. And also Daniela shared with us yesterday that you're a landscape architect. And of course, you can see that she knows what she's talking about and she's very passionate about it. Thank you, Daniela.
I wanted to show only this. I have here, if you want to see, we do a lot of education at schools, like introducing nature since very little, from childcare, schools. And we also have this that goes with all the programs that we have. So kids go to one program, for example, and write about the program, and then the next one is another program, so that we can have all children in all our programs. So if you want to take a look what I have here is, I can share you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniela. A big applause. Yes. And for our next presenter, I would like to call Mr. Sergio Cato, a co-representative of Climate Initiative Japan, and a long friend and participant and leader of ACA, of course. Thank you. Yes. Or you can use that one. I can sit with you. You want to stand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever you prefer.
I start here.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. I'm very honored to be here to explain our some not success story, but some stories of the advocacies. Firstly, by looking at America's Zorin, I want to say the thank you to Trump, because we in Japan, we have been inspired by the America's Zorin, or We Are Still in 2017. As a result of the new Trump presidency, who against Paris Agreement, our friends have established We Are Still In with many businesses, states, governments, subnationals, and universities, academias, institute. We are so inspired by this, because also in 2017, at that time, Japanese government, not like Trump, but still not so much progressive, very conservative, and then we are facing many obstacles over there. That's why that we are inspired by We Are Still In, and we considered to establish this kind of non-state actors coalition in Japan, also necessary. And then at that time I was a business guy. Then I raised the voice of this importance or necessity, and then our co-representative Sueyoshi-san, Takejiro Sueyoshi, have called many stakeholders, non-state actors, and then established the Japan Climate Initiative. We started with 105 members at that time, who had the same concerns and the same ideas and raised hand, like my company and then the many other big companies like Sony, Panasonic, also the some cities like Tokyo, Yokohama, and we started with small, let's say 100 members. Then now 2024, 6 years later, we achieved now 830 members. This growth is thanks to the, let's say, all global leaders, like all of you and many also the many global leaders around here who speak up and who, let's say, provided a lot of, let's say, information, ideas, thought leadership, and many Japanese non-state actors have listened and then got the information and then they inspired a lot. Also thanks to the many global initiatives like RE100, Science-Based Target Initiatives, and the TCFD, TNFD, every year or many global initiative comes up, and then many Japanese non-state actors recognize the importance of that. And also thanks to our JCI own activities like a seminar, webinar, etc., we consider to do the raise awareness of this importance, and we also encouraged our members or non-state actors in Japan to take or to accelerate the climate actions, and we also try to scale up this movement, and but least we also enhanced the advocacy activities. And every year, whenever we consider the necessity, like NDC timing or like a G7, G20, or etc., almost every year we made let's say advocacy activity, and we made a statement, joint statement toward our national government to do something. Latest our success is last year, G7 in Japan. We made a statement by having this opportunity. We made a statement, joint statement to government saying overachieving a climate crisis and also energy crisis. Why not, let's say, develop the renewable energy more faster? And also, this is the first time in Japan from industry or from non-state actor saying early introduction of effective carbon pricing. In the past, from the, let's say, private sector, nobody talked about carbon pricing or said, government, don't do that. That is a voices from the private sector in Japan, especially from let's say, hard to abate industry's voice. And the government listened to that voices, and then, okay, private sector doesn't want carbon pricing too hard. Okay, we consider the more soft landing activities toward carbon neutrality. And then last year, our voice, JCI voice, was the first time for government to hear that accelerate or early introduction of the carbon pricing. So they are so shocked with, because that joint statement, if I remember well, 216 endorsement, right? 216 endorsement with many famous companies' name and the cities, etc. Once government looked at that, they slipped down from the chair. Are you joking? 200 non-state actors are asking carbon pricing? We said yes. Then at that time, at the first meeting, they are so shocked and they asked us, excuse me, what do you mean the effective carbon pricing? We'd like to know. So they requested us to provide more detailed information or detailed ideas. What area, let's say GCI members want policy they need. We have set up the working group with our some of our members who wanted to really create the proposal to the government. Around 20 members we gathered, and then several meetings we did, and then we created very precise, detailed design of the idea of the proposal of the effective carbon pricing. And then we submitted the last COP28 period, submitted to the government, and the government received it, and then they circulated these ideas, and then we also explained our ideas to the ministers level, not only the staff level, but the minister level. And then nowadays, they are implementing to some extent some of our ideas, our proposal into their new policies to be launched from 2026. Still too late. But such as, for example, at first proposal, their idea was always carbon pricing or ETS system to be voluntary base, not mandatory base, voluntary base. If we want, you can do the, let's say, ETS systems. We said should be mandatory to accelerate this journey of the decarbonization, right? By having more innovation, more technologies, or more social transformation. Carbon pricing is one of the tactics to accelerate. So mandatory should be. And then also we said 2026, 2028, too late. We are now talking about half the emissions by 2030 and then 2050 zero. Why this kind of a tool to be introduced in 2028? Too early, no? Now they are thinking about early introduction. So now they are thinking about the mandatory systems. So to some extent, we are having this kind of dialogues, conversation with government. Thanks to this joint statement system, impacted very, or made a big influence to the government because of the big numbers endorsed. So I'd like to share with you more detail of our joint statement system mechanism, and then I hope that also that you in your country may have a more stronger, let's say, impact on your national government advocacy activities by yourself. So such a way we'd like to work together. And then recently, although government are starting to listen to our voices, but still we are weak. So we are feeling that it's necessary to have a more international collaboration, because our joint statement only Japanese endorsement, but sometimes endorsed by the big, let's say, international voices, international companies, or international non-state actors' voices also make more impact on consideration of the national government. So we are recently receiving a quite good support from America's All-In, and also some RE100 initiatives, or even the United States, United Nations, and then EU Embassy. So those kind of also the voices we'd like to integrate to our joint statement to the government, and then that impact strong. So not only national, but international collaboration or joint activity is fundamental. So by having this opportunity, I'd like to discuss more detail how to work together, these kind of things, vice versa, no? Not only for Japan, but also for your countries. That kind of joint statement activities or advocacy activities we'd like to discuss more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergio. And yes, I invite you to take a look at the Japan Climate Initiative website, because indeed you can see there's an English version, Japanese version, and you can see the joint statements that they have released in the past, who has adhered or endorsed them, and it's interesting to see also the evolution. So thank you very much. And next, I would like to call to the stage Mrs. Hope, Executive Director of the Center for Sustainable Rural Development in Vietnam. Hope, welcome again.
I can stay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And I come from Vietnam. You know that, like Luli introduced. And Vietnam is quite a poor country in comparison to Japan, US, even Mexico. And I am the Executive Director of the Center for Sustainable Rural Development under the, we call Vietnam Union for Science and Technology Associations. And you know that in Vietnam we don't have NGO laws, so we cannot register as NGOs. We have to register as science and technology organizations. So, and we don't have, actually the words advocacy is now also not used. You cannot say lobbying or advocacy. So that the environment is quite shrinking in the last 2 years with the change after quite a numbers of the important positions in the highest positions of Vietnam. All those peoples like from US particularly and also EU, they are always saying about the human rights and ILO conventions to Vietnam in many forums at also high levels. But in the same times, NGOs, we call ourselves as NGOs, but to be very correct, it is a science and technology organizations. So, you know, we work on the numbers of issues. So SID working on climate change since 2008. We established in 2006, and in 2008, together with CARE International, we formed the climate change working group. Actually, and now we have 1,300 subscribers. We circulate all the good. We only dare to circulate good practices from our projects. So in the current years, in the last at least 2-3 years, the project's approval even very difficult. We got the many NGOs, they have a project funded by different, like USAID, but they cannot get approval because the government fight the project is not really right. So you touch something, security, even the forest, you know, we NGOs like SID, we can work everywhere in the countries, but international NGOs like WWF, they have a limitation. They granted permissions that you can only work in this, that, and that. And some areas like Central Highlands and in the ethnic minorities areas, very difficult for international NGOs to operate. So I want to provide you a little bit of the overall context. So before coming to a more concrete of the actions, but we say there's a will, there's a way. So we always meet together. So WWF and SID, we are co-chair of the the climate change working group. So that's why we have some kind of foundation to make the ACA Vietnam really to form. And now we have 40 members. The big difference between the climate change working group and the ACA is ACA include private sectors. As you can see on the day before yesterday, the Vietnam presenters, we invite people coming called capitals, funds. They really investigate in the carbon markets. And for NGOs like us, I think that the very important thing that we can make the ACA is we draw the attention from subnational as well. So because we, like SID and WWF, we have been working in many provinces. So SID have been working in 20 provinces and WWF even more. And that's why, and we work at the province, we work with subnational. We have a very good contact with them. We lobby them for change at the province and use province to advocate at the national levels. You can see that the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment is here with the funding from WWF Vietnam. And also Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, they are also here with support from WWF Vietnam. Two peoples, very important one. They are very technical here, but it is not easy. Sometimes they even refuse. They want to come, but they refuse because they think, if I come here, I get your fundings, I have to follow you. And when coming back home, so they are also very, very smart. I would say the word. They know how to avoid. So that's why here I can talk about advocacy, but at home I cannot say the words advocacy. They really think it is a taboo word. So even we think that is in Vietnam, everything have to be the first, or in all the meeting and workshop you have to open with all the good thing about the government. The government is doing good, the policy is good, the program is good, everything is good. However, there is gaps in policy. For example, the National Adaptation Plan. We try to lobby for gender mainstreaming in the National Adaptation Plan and in the NDC. Before NGO's voice, there is nothing mentioned about gender mainstreaming. And then we also try to make all the good practices. We make many books about good practice, about SID, about WWF, about Care International, about companies, so that we show them a good practices and we say that we only want to contribute to your targets. How you can achieve NAP without us, because we are implementing at the local levels. And there are thousands of communities that NGOs are actively working and supporting the subnational governments. So that's why by doing that, then they listen and they say that, okay, yeah, you are doing quite good work. We will recognize that, and we will try to upscale. So for us, for SID, for example, Vietnam is a rice producers. And rice, emissions, very big, very, very intensive. And that's why we work with farmers to introduce the new technology so that to reduce the emissions for the rice. And then we try to use subnational to lobby them, to advocate for them that you have to contribute to the NAP, to the National Adaptation Plan, and to the national NDC. So that's why you need to have evidence saying that you can contribute, you can cut emission from rice. Rice production is sometimes 80% of the income of the province. You know, in all the province we work, agriculture is the main livelihood, and rice is main livelihood, and also cow and buffalo, all very high emissions. So that's why we try to make them to work on those kind of, from the very simple that farmer can apply. So there are 3 keywords we often use. Low cost, you know, people all care about the cost. If you introduce something low cost, then they will listen. Okay? They will apply. So low cost, low carbon. So you show to the government. This is, we have to engage the subnational. Okay? We have actually the equipment to measure carbon stock for the forest and for the rice emission reductions. So we buy the equipment for the national, subnational, you know, they can measure. So I say low cost, low carbon, and low conflicts. You know, so 3C. Low conflict is very important for the communities. You know, in the communities, people often have a conflict because over land, over forests, over waters. You know, we don't have a tap waters. In many areas we work, they use all the rainfalls and also the natural water from the forest. Go long way from the forest to down, maybe 10 kilometers. And the downstream, they don't have waters. Upstream, they use a lot of waters. So conflict a lot. So we create like water user associations so that people can discuss, you know, upstream and downstream. They discuss and they use water more effectively. So that is really also adaptation. In this case, you know, now extremes, hot and drought. So there is no waters. So that is all. So in short, we are working in the communities, but always we allied together with NGOs, with subnational, with private sectors. And now private sectors, they work with us because they buy all the product that we support. You know, they say that, for example, organic shrimps export to all the world. If without NGOs, company, they cannot monitor. How they can monitor organic mangrove, you know mangrove shrimps. Only NGOs can do that. So that's why we engage. And actually, we were successful for SRD. We successfully to raise 300,000 euro from private sectors for the mangrove shrimps, organic shrimps. So that is really our good experience. So I think time is up. Thank you very much for listening. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hop. And I think every year we learn a little bit more about Vietnam and the fact that there's very different context with very different policies and ways of doing things. And I really like your how you frame the low cost, low carbon, low conflict. I think that that would work well also in other countries in Latin America. So thank you for that. And next I would like to call Frankie McDermott. He's a representative Chief Operating Officer of the Sacramento Municipal Utility District in USA. So welcome, Frankie. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Luli. Very impressive speakers so far. I actually wanted to talk to you rather than talk to everybody else. My name's Frankie McDermott. I'm with a utility in California that I'm going to tell you a little bit about. This is I'll try not to trip on this over here. I'll tell you a little bit about it, but first, this is my first COP that I've been to, And as I tell you more about our company, you'll probably realize my next statement, it feels like I'm around people of the same kind. We often hear from other utilities in the US that we're a little crazy around our goals and we're a little aggressive and we're setting a bar that's a little too high for everybody, but we're very, very proud of it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it today. So just it feels really good to be at COP and be around thousands of people that think similarly. But first about SMUD. It's an unusual name, but it stands for Sacramento Municipal Utility District. We're the 6th largest public power electric utility in the U.S. And of course, we're in Sacramento, California, the capital of the 5th largest economy in the world. We're not a massive utility, but we're about $2.3 billion. And I think what's really important about it is, and our vice president of our board is here attending COP, and so is our CEO. We are governed by a 7-member elected board, and it really gives us local control around our policies, and we can implement things relatively quickly. So in 2020, our CEO, who's also here, Paul Lau at COP, introduced a clean energy vision to our board, which is basically saying we want to remove all carbon from our generating resources by 2030. So not net zero, but all carbon so this is a very, very aggressive goal. And I'm happy to tell you, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it over the next few minutes. We're well on our way after 4 years to meeting that plan. So my talk today is really concentrating on collaboration and partnership, and I really wanted to thank the alliances for having us, because it seems to be really congruent with what you're trying to do at the alliances. So as we developed this plan, we really could identify 90% of the way towards zero carbon, but knew that with existing technology. So we created a flexible path, knowing things will change over time on the way to 2030. And we're counting on introduction of newer technologies to bridge that 10%, but also have really great partnerships with everybody, employees, our board, customers, regulators in California and in DC, other local organizations, and the industry. So I'll go through a couple of examples of that. But the other thing we talked about is no community left behind. So we have a major sustainable communities initiative that goes on that really looks at, we don't want to achieve zero carbon without all communities benefiting, and create the economic benefit within our community as we move along. So the first thing we did was, even before we went to our board, we said we better talk to our customers. We've been around for 75 years producing reliable, affordable. It sounds like a commercial, right? But affordable comes with numbers. We're nearly 60% lower in cost than neighboring utilities around us, which I'd rather not name today, but you can figure it out yourself. That generates well over $1 billion of economic benefit to our customers in our region, just by being affordable. We're also reliable. Why do I tell you this? Because our customers expect reliable power, they expect affordable power, and now they also expect clean power. As we communicated our vision of zero carbon to our customers, we also measured, when they're aware of our plan, they are 93% agreeing with our plan. So there isn't this scare. They're not scared of what is it going to cost or what is it going to do to my environment. They get it. They get it that we've delivered before, and we're working on and we're building on the relationships that we've had before. An example of no community left behind, we realized that access to solar, to EVs, to any kind of new technology is very, very difficult for under-resourced communities. So we created a community impact plan, and we put money behind that to reach customers so they could participate in this clean energy future. That's one of the major examples that, as part of our sustainable communities effort, that we put in place. We're coordinating with over 130 community organizations, and we've expanded that to workforce. Now, why workforce? What do we mean by workforce? We're not just talking about the people that are hired into our company. We have roughly 2,300 to 2,400 employees. Not everybody can get a job with us. But as we're building our clean energy vision, as companies are partnering with us, recently a battery company announced broke ground in Sacramento. They're partnering with us to help people join the clean energy industry. We're partnering, as I said, with hundreds of organizations. We're helping to direct folks that really didn't know much about electric utilities or the clean energy industry, that otherwise didn't have access to jobs. And why do we do this? This is generational change. When you see somebody come from an under-resourced area, receive a job in the utility industry, it is absolute generational change, and it keeps it in our region and boosts the economic benefit within the area. The other way we're partnering is we can't do this alone. Other organizations, the Sacramento Council of Local Governments, the Sacramento Regional Transit, they run the trains and the buses within the Sacramento area. And the third organization is slipping me for the moment. But anyway, we coordinated together to create a blueprint for electric vehicle mobilization within the area. We're not just going to go out and say this is where the charger should be. We know where the power's coming from. We know how to plan for this. We know the technology, but they know their communities as well as we do. And that partnership is really working very well for us. We're also partnering with, when it comes to how are we going to pay for all of this, the partnerships we have together, if you look at state and federal grants, many of them include what is the community benefit that you're bringing along with your need for your plan. So what's working very well for us is we have such an ambitious goal. We have so many plans around modernizing the grid to be able to manage distributed energy resources, to be able to maximize benefit for our customers, to be able to minimize investment in the grid. The federal government and state governments see that, and we've been successful with our partners in winning over $300 million in grants so far, which then goes to the bottom line and keeps that guardrail of affordability in mind as we change our generation fleet and as we get ready to change the sources into those. Another partner of ours, Calpine, we have a program with them for carbon capture and sequestration. They received $270 million in grants for that project. That project may or may not be successful by 2030. I'm sorry, that project will be successful before 2030 and will give us time then for hydrogen and other technologies to be more economically viable for us. They're not quite there yet, but our ambitions are that we can run our power plants with hydrogen eventually. Not sure if that'll be ready by 2030. That's not completely within our control. Other partnerships we have with industry. We have a pilot with a company called OptiWatt that works with GM, Ford, Volkswagen, and also Tesla to test out vehicle to grid, managed charging. Managed charging, if you think about it, can remove some of the peak load, reduce investment for our customers. Electric vehicles, so if you think about what is driving load growth in the US, I think it's about 4 components. Hopefully I can remember them all. One is major industry moving back into the US. Secretary Granholm spoke about that earlier today. AI-driven data centers are a massive piece of that. For California, the biggest driver is electrification, specifically electric vehicles. Last year, 1 in every 4 vehicles in California was an electric vehicle that was sold in California. So California is by far leading the electrical vehicle side. That creates major load increases for the utilities, and us partnering with our customers, bringing this all the way back to where I started, talking about our zero carbon plan, being able to get there by 90%. We know 90% of the way. Again, that's flexible how we're going to get there. But that last 10%, partnering with our customers, partnering with industry, partnering with Calpine, we really believe we can get there by 2030. So I think, again, wrapping this up, this is a major we for us, not I. And I think it's really transforming our utility. We've always had a great relationship that we've been able to build on now going forward. But the partnership now, it's very, very exciting to be part of the utility business. I've been at SMUD for 21 years. Our CEO has been there for 42 years. He started as an intern engineer. So we both talk about this, how electric utilities were sleepy, quiet giants out there, not anymore. So I'd encourage all of you to look into us more. It's all on our website. Our zero carbon plan is there for you all to read. It's a transparent, open organization with local control with our own board members. And I think we're going to have a real impact on the environment and real influence in the electric utility industry. So again, thank you to the Alliance for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie. Thank you so much for talking about the importance of utility companies. And it's true. I don't think it was a less sexy sector than power utilities. And now, as we will see also in the next presentation, I think the electrification of the economy and electric vehicles are putting new actors on the spotlight. And also, thank you for highlighting the importance of these partnerships with the private sector, with communities, because they are at the center of this revolution that needs to happen. So next, I would like to welcome Nadia Rauchti. She's the head of climate of Emirates Nature. Yes, I'm back. Emirates Nature, no, the other one. And she's actually going to talk to us about the program, one of the programs at the United Arab Emirates Alliance for Climate Action. So thank you, Nadia.
Thank you, Lily. Okay, I'm going to take these off. Well, I don't want to do a death by PowerPoint situation, so I'm going to breeze by these. But I guess what we're really excited today, and I recognize there's a lot of logos here, but I think it's really about partnership. The UAE Alliance for Climate Action was born in COP27, and I guess we've had a year of this new initiative, and we're really excited to be able to present it just to showcase how some creative thinking and getting some actors excited has catalyzed us into a new area where we're actually, as an ACA, able to say the ACA has contributed to this many direct emission reduction. So that's really exciting for us because we always had advocacy at the forefront, and now we're looking at how can we enable direct implementation, and that's why we wanted to present this. So change the slide. I mean, there's a fantastic team leading on this. They couldn't be here today, so I'm trying my best to represent them. But this really was a brainchild created by, we got some pro bono support from BCG and the team on the ground. And it was really about, okay, we have 55 organizations in the UAE that are committed to decarbonization. All of them recognize that Scope 3 emissions are extremely difficult to achieve, and we have multiple issues. Can we do something in Scope 3? And we racked our brains for months and weeks, and how can we help them do Scope 3? We don't want to do toolkits, we have toolkits. We don't want to do capacity building, we do capacity building. What could we do that makes a lot of sense? And so we got around the table, and after many weeks, we decided that transportation is the one thing that links all of our members together, because all of our members are probably responsible for moving either people or moving things. And that I think I could be applied to probably any single organization. Working in, cement is very specific. And so I think, of all the options that we saw, we said, well, transport's interesting, but it's not Scope 3, it's kind of Scope 1. But then when we dug a little bit deeper, we talk, we have FMCG companies, we have transport and delivery, we have, the Uber Eats of the Middle East, which is called Talabat, and we have all of these people that are moving stuff around. So why aren't they decarbonizing? And when we spoke to them, they said, but 95% of us lease our vehicles. So it's Scope 3. It's a leasing company, or it's a 3PL, or it's something else. And it's their responsibility to decarbonize. And so we said, actually, if we come together, maybe we could put a bit of pressure on the leasing companies and the big fleet owners, which turns out to be way bigger than we had anticipated, to decarbonize. And so that's where the essential idea came from for the Road to Zero, which I know there's a lot of 2 zeros, but the idea essentially was UACA is enabling cross-sectoral engagement on decarbonization levers that are well within our reach. The technology is ready, the cost is coming to par. How can we scale this up in the commercial sector? So in the UAE, we've actually had great success in other elements of capacity building, as UACA, of course. But this whole element about pushing for more action is what we really wanted to drive. And so at COP28, it's advancing a little fast, but at COP28, we actually got 17 organizations to say, yes, we want to commit to road transport electrification. We recognize we need to do that now because we need to scale up. It takes time to scale up, and we need to scale up in order to achieve, the 2030 objectives that the IEA projects that road transport is an important component of that. And actually commercial road transport is a very underserved market. I think passenger vehicles have really seen an increase in terms of adoption, but commercial road transport is complex. You've got two-wheeler motorbikes that are delivering things around. You've got cars delivering things. You've got light-duty vans. You've got medium-duty vans. You have light-duty trucks. So it's a little bit more of a sector that needs a little bit of a boost. And so we launched this at COP28, and then after COP28, we had the big hurrah. We said, okay, well, what are we going to do? So we actually got companies to sign on to commit to reducing their, I'm going to get there, to actually committing to more aggressive targets than the country. Because we felt that these corporate pioneers had to demonstrate faster adoption of commercial EVs than what had been set by the government, so that we can have more accelerated adoption along the further lines across all corporate actors. So we actually got 17 organizations to commit to piloting EVs within the next 12 months, and I'll show you the results of that. We actually asked them to have 30% of their fleet, their commercial fleet, by 2030, so in 5 years, 30%, not new purchases, 30% of their current fleet. That was a very long conversation with CEOs and CFOs trying to convince them. They agreed to that. And to have 100% of their fleet, whether it be owned or leased, 100% by 2040, which is much more aggressive than I think anybody had planned, but we have that commitment. Now, what do you do with commitments? We need to act. And this is where we have some progress that I'll show you on the implementation side. But essentially, the biggest learning also was to find out that 10% of the UAE emissions come from commercial road transport. So 20% of our domestic NDC is addressing the 20% opportunity in transport, but 10%, half of that, which is quite large, is coming from commercial road transport. We move a lot of things, I guess, in the UAE. And so what have we done in the first year? We actually had organizations say, actually, thank you. We've never even considered our road transport because it was all leased. And so in the last 12 months, our organizations have put 90 vehicles on the road that are EVs, either through purchasing or leasing, and convincing the leasing companies and the 3PLs to move to EVs. Now, of course, our grid is not green, so those emissions are not going to zero. We recognize that, and we've modeled the kind of decarbonization pathways with how our grid is decarbonizing. But we hope that that's going to happen in tandem. So as the organizations are bringing on more fleets, which is going to hopefully happen, the grid will also decarbonize and help that element of their Scope 3 and some Scope 1 decarbonize. Now, of course, it's not all rosy. We still have barriers to scale. Piloting is one thing, scaling is another thing. There's still some key financial, market, systemic policy barriers that exist. The beauty of this is that we're coming together to try to crack those. Charging infrastructure, still an issue. Charging infrastructure location, still an issue. Tariffs, still an issue. There's some even very minor issues that actually our team has become experts on now, because now we've all become commercial road transport experts, which has been a really great experience. And the team has been amazing on leading this. But what we've done also is we've tried to enable the members, because we're an NGO, we're Emirates Nature WWF, we only had a limited amount of funding. So we got actually working groups to come together and define what agenda they want to work on. So they all came up with a list of 66 action items that they wanted to take forward. They prioritized 20 for year one, and they were a range of building capacity on fleet management systems. Not sexy, right? It's really not the sexy stuff. But the fleet management systems were actually implemented in the first month, actually reduced emissions by 7% for one organization. So really not the sexy and fun stuff, but actually things that can contribute to emission reduction. So those are for existing ICE fleets. And so our working groups have been working across the board on policy elements, simple stuff to say when an EV van from Amazon is fully packed, it actually can't take the same roads because it's considered a heavy-duty vehicle. So you're either incentivizing vehicles to reduce the load of their vehicles, which no company, I mean, Amazon does not want that, or to take different roads which are more far out. So now our policy recommendation is consider that EVs get a certain weight classification exemption, because when they're full, they're not a heavy-duty vehicle. They don't operate as a heavy-duty vehicle. So what are the considerations about that? And making policy recommendations based on that. Ownership costs of vehicles is still an issue. Of course, the leasing companies will say, well, what's my motivation for electrifying? You're getting all the benefits. You can say that you've decarbonized, but I need the finance for it. So we're trying to also do some matchmaking with some financing opportunities with the leasing companies, who are the typical B2B people who have no pressure from consumers, who are not signing up to SBTI, but now saying, well, here's an opportunity, here's somebody who wants to bank you, and trying to make that matchmaking with the leasing companies who really did not want to do this. Opportunities like that. And then also figuring out how do we enable the ecosystem around total cost of ownership, because EVs are still not, on par with ICE vehicles. And so trying to work on some TCO, total cost of ownership modeling, to say, well, if we do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, then actually the cost could come down. And then we talk about a little bit, fuel elements, incentives, subsidies, et cetera. So it's, I think overall, then the message I want to leave is what started with a very simple idea was not simple, but we really pushed hard on figuring out what could be something that talks to all of our members. And then from COP28 to COP29, I think the team has literally become transportation experts. They know the whole game. We've built our capacity, and it's something that we're having meaningful policy outcomes out of, and discussions, and really engaging capacity building, but also real outcomes and decarbonization outcomes that will hopefully continue to decarbonize as the grid decarbonizes. So super exciting. Love to talk about this project. Hopefully you can see that. But I think it's just the power of the ACAs of coming together, multi-sectoral, finding opportunities, and really being part of something bigger than we are individually. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nadia, for that inspiring presentation. And this is we've come to the end of our presentation, but we would like to ask you for 5 more minutes of your time, because we will have a very special moment now, because the province of Jujuy in Argentina is joining the Alliance of Climate Action Argentina, and we will have just a few words, and she will sign and join the alliance. Yeah, it's a short moment. Very short.
Well, do you hear me? Okay. So thank you to be here. Now we are downscaling our events. We came from the international level. We spoke about net zero, UN commitments, and so on. In the second session, we were seeing what happened in each of the alliance. And now you are going to see one of the fundamental bricks of the alliances. That is the moment when a signatory joins us to commit to the alliance. So we started with the Argentine Alliance for Climate Action 6 years ago, and at that time we were thinking that the motivation for this is to keep the momentum of our climate policies. If any government or any circumstance change the way that we want to go. And this is happening now. So at that time, okay, we see what was happening at the United States, and now United States is again in the same process, and Argentina maybe is in the same process too. So it gets a lot of significance for us to be with our alliance alive. So, well, finally, we are going to, here there are many signatories that started with us in 2018. And what we are going to do is to give place to the province of Jujuy to sign our alliance, the declaration of our alliance, where we commit to have an impact and to follow and to be more ambitious in our climate policies. And it's a great pleasure to have a province, because it's a large scale, it has a lot of population of industries, and it's a province that has showed so far that has a great commitment. So, well,
Well, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Luli. Thank you, Diego, and all the members of the ACA. This week was a really interesting experience. We met a lot of members of the ACA from different countries, from different sectors like municipalities, the province, so private sector. So for me, the experience here was very good. As a representative of the province of Jujuy, I'm very happy to join the ACA. We are a province that are very committed with the climate change. We have laws. We have included a chapter of climate change in our constitution of the province. So for us, it's very important to join the ACA. I hope we work together with so many objectives and projects, and thank you so much.
Only thank you. Welcome.
it's a sort of marriage. Yeah, it seems. ¿Cómo se dice testigo? The witnesses, yes.
It's very important for us. Only this is the second province we plus in 2 months. It's possible we have 5 new subnational states to Argentina, and for us it's very important. I am the responsibility to the north, to the political climate, and I'm very happy for this time in this place. Thank you, Rocio.
And as a closing moment to all of this was, some of you only got to see these 2 events and this afternoon, but the Alliances for Climate Action, we have been together with a very busy program this whole week, learning about collective advocacy, non-state climate action, and networking with very important and inspiring figures to us. And I want to welcome Gonzalo Muñoz, who was high-level climate champion for the UNFCCC in COP25. And he has been a very strong advocate of the Alliances for Climate Action in Chile and beyond. And thank you so much for being with us today. And if you can please just give hopefully an inspiring message to everyone to continue our work from here on. Thank you, Gonzalo.
Thanks so much. It's definitely an honor to be with all of you today, because I think that there's no better moment in history for the ACAs than today, for many reasons. On one side, we've seen climate action accelerating at the point that probably for the next COPs, the action agenda will be the prominent part of the agenda, no doubt about it. There's not much more to negotiate. Of course, the negotiation must remain, but then it's all about implementation. That implementation happens in the territories, happens with the subnational government, happens with the NGOs and the municipalities, coordinated with businesses, financial institutions, academia. That's the reality that we need to see, I would say, not only in this treaty, but also in other negotiations. But also, it was quite evident to me back in 2019 when I remember Mariana Panuncho and Manuel Pulgar Vidal explaining me about the Alliances of Climate Action, and me understanding what we are still in was meaning at that time. I said, wait a minute, this is the best tool we have. Because at the end, it's not only for those troubling times. And I know, I don't want to sound naive, we're confronting very complex moments geopolitically in almost every continent of the world, and that means that for all of those countries where we have, and there's so many, and where we have a great leadership that is committed to mobilize implementation of the Paris Agreement, to mobilize all of the society towards solving the climate crisis and the triple crisis towards the environment, well, for those leaders, we must be and we can be their best friend. We can tell them, these are your plans, these are your NDCs. Well, let me show you what is happening in your territories, what can be done and what's being done, and how much we can improve if you give us the right framework and the right regulations. For those territories in which the leadership cannot or might not be totally aligned, we can become the worst friend, but a friend finally, and somehow carry the backpack of what it means to make every country not only fulfill the Paris Agreement, but definitely move towards the net zero, resilient climate, economy, and society, what we require, and honestly, that we will achieve. The only topic is how much suffering are we going to tolerate in order to achieve it. And we are the ones that can reduce that, suffering, and that can accelerate the implementation of all of those perfectly feasible, good trajectories and solutions that are in place nowadays in so many places of the world. Some other thing that I would love to share with all of you, I am so committed to the Alliances of Climate Action that this logo was designed by my daughter. Probably none of you knew about that, but this was my daughter, just graduated from university as a designer. This was one of her first products, let's say. I pay it. Well, that wasn't slavery. I paid for it, but I'm so proud to see it here. So thank you very much. I'm absolutely in.
Before everyone goes, let's just have one picture, and maybe we can start here the panelists with the audience as we did before, or how can it work best? I don't know if we we can sit in the let's sit in the first row. Ahorita te damos un pin. Si te sientas acá, vamos con la audiencia. Here, exacto.
Genial.
Bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien, Pilar, qué bueno que estés aquí.
Sí, estamos participando aquí en acá.
Nosotros nos habíamos conectado por WhatsApp.
Puede ser. No, no lo habíamos visto.
Carlos.
3 años. Gracias. Trabajo con la alcaldesa Camila Marín. Así que llegué con ella, seguimos.
Desde que entró, explico algo. Ahora
Sí. Seguimos con todo.
Seguimos con todo.